it's been a good couple of weeks since I put out a YouTube video, and I have a really, really good excuse. I can't tell you everything just now, but I filmed something for television. So I was contacted by a British production company / channel and asked to feature the allotment. So the allotment is going to be on television very, very soon. And I'll let you know a little bit more about that. But it has been insane actually just preparing for the day of filming and then actually filming it. I was also quite nervous because I'd never done anything quite like that before. YouTube is one thing, but having like an entire crew and everything was something completely different. But it was amazing. I had such a fun time and I can't wait to see it on television. And I hope that you'll be able to tune in when it's live on TV. I just got up and had a look at that clip because the cats were just crazy. Did you see little chibis behind her? That was hilarious. Oh, these cats. Louie, that's been another thing that has been taking up a bit of my time in the past few weeks. So we found a little lump on his tummy and had to take him into the vet, but he had surgery. So they took it out immediately and came back benign. So that was just a few days ago that we found out that it's benign. And so that's a huge weight off of my shoulders. And as you can see him rolling around and everything, he's totally fine. He just has a little bit of a scabby tummy at the moment. These animals, it's not chibis, it's Louie. Anyway, it's summer now, officially summer. And we celebrated the summer solstice by camping. We went out to the beach and watched the sunset. It was fantastic just sitting there and just having a moment of calm after all this craziness. And yesterday was the first day of summer and we've had really good weather. So hopefully this will take us into a bit more warmer days and weather, and the vegetables will start to grow, because I don't know about you, but my garden has had a really slow start to the year. And it's partially to do with weather and temperature, but I want to show you something in the greenhouse that is pretty devastating, to say the least. If you've been following my tomato growing series this year, you'll know that I have run into some challenges, but I didn't realize that this was going to be the year that everything was going to happen. And after the more recent challenge of them suffering from cold and or being a bit too wet, I planted them here in the planter in the greenhouse. 2 of them didn't really grow very well though. So you can see this one over here is quite small, and the Black Russian over here looks very small, and the leaves are all a bit distorted, curling in on themselves like this. Just really poor growth overall. I don't really see any trusses of flowers. The one next to it, this is one of the Costoluto Florentinos. It's a lot larger, and the leaves look a bit healthier lower down. But if you look closely at the top, it's the same curling in of the leaves, very distorted. It's not going to do well. I'm really afraid to have to say it, but my tomatoes have been affected by the aminopyralid herbicide. And I only learned about it this year. And if it hadn't have been for Charles Dowding alerting all of us, I might have thought that I did something wrong. You see, even this plant over here, which at first glance looks quite big and healthy, if you look closely, you can see that it's starting to curl. So some of the leaves are starting to curl in, and you can start to see some of that damage up there. Now, if this has never happened to you before and you've never heard about it, you're not the only one. I think it's only this year that a lot of people are becoming aware of the aminopyralid herbicide. Now, the way that a herbicide gets into compost is actually quite indirect. Of course, the companies that produce it, they don't want it in there any more than we do. But Any compost that's made with horse manure or even cow manure to a certain extent has a chance of it having it in there. And that's because of a new herbicide or new-ish herbicide that is becoming very popular now, this aminopyralid herbicide. Farmers use it on fields of grass and it kills off everything pretty much other than the actual grass. So that means that when they harvest that grass for hay, that there's not going to be any undesirable plants in it, there's not going to be anything that hurts the animals, and it makes a really good hay. Unfortunately, that herbicide passes right through the animals and goes out with their manure. And it can stick around in manure almost indefinitely. It needs contact with the soil to actually break down. So that means when compost companies get a hold of this manure, they don't know that this lurking poison is there in that manure. And they use it to create all different types of compost. And lots of different compost companies are being affected. And it doesn't matter if they're peat-free or with peat or organic or non-organic. It's across the board right now. And it's this lurking threat that has actually basically destroyed my trust in bagged compost, which is really unfortunate because I do use it for a lot of my seed starting. I use a lot of manure in general, to be honest. And I get deliveries of it from a local equestrian center, and I've used it to fill the raised beds here in the home garden. I use it every year as a mulch at the allotment garden. Thus far, fingers crossed, the source here has been relatively free, or free completely, of this herbicide. It is the bagged compost, and I'm not going to name any names. I'm sure there's lots of names out there on the internet, but let's just say that it's not necessarily their fault. It is farmers not reporting that they're using this herbicide, and it's affecting a lot of gardeners right now. So if it's affected you, or you know a little bit more about it, leave a comment down below in the video and let us know what your experience with it has been thus far. Although it's likely that the tomatoes are just not going to make it, especially the two little ones, it's not all doom and gloom here in the greenhouse. So you'll remember that I planted a couple of tomato plants here in a grow bag as an experiment to see how they would do against the other tomatoes. The one here on the end, it might be free of that poison. This is a sun gold. I'm not quite sure yet. It looks pretty healthy. It has flowers on it. Only time will tell. The Ailsa Craig next to it, it definitely has been affected. You can tell by the leaves. But I also have some spare tomatoes that I had kicking around. So I've got this little guy. This is another sun gold. And I had this old manky Gardener's Delight, and it already has tomatoes on it. So I'm going to baby it a bit and see how it does. I do like Gardener's Delight tomatoes. And then I also have some kind of spur of the moment tomatoes that I sowed from Thompson and Morgan. They sent me these experimental tomato seeds. So this might be their year. I'm not sure how they'll do. It's quite late in the season for being this far north, but we'll see. So there are going to be tomatoes here this year. It's just not going to be the amount and the abundance that I'd hoped. Although I'm really certain that I used the same compost for some of these other plants, they look to be powering through it. So these two plants are aubergines, eggplants, and it's a variety called Mitoyo from Baker's Creek Seeds. This is a sweet pepper, and it's called Sweetonia, and it's a dwarf variety, so it stays pretty small, which is why I chose it, and it looks pretty healthy as well. So these guys might end up being the winners of 2019. We'll see. Outside the greenhouse, the 4 raised beds are all planted up with various edibles. And I thought we could have a walk around and have a look to see what's growing. So this far bed I planted up with a variety of lettuces. I literally got a seed packet of mixed lettuces, sowed them, grew them on in modules, and then planted them out. And all we've been doing is just coming out when we fancy a salad and just picking the leaves around the outer edge. You can see we've had a few from this one. And then just letting the plant grow. And they'll last quite a long time this way. But in the meantime, I have sown some new lettuces and they'll be planted out here when they're big enough. And I've also thought about actually putting in some spinach over here as well because it is quite shady on this side. So that's going to be perfect for trying to stop them from bolting. Speaking of bolting, all of the rocket along this side is bolting. You can see all the flowers starting to form here at the top. So this is just a standard rocket arugula mix. And again, just picking the leaves. The peas in the center are not doing as well. So this is Meteor. I've grown it before. It's a dwarf variety, so it shouldn't really get very tall. But you can see a lot of the leaves are turning yellow. And I fear that it's the herbicide at work again. Because you remember I grew these peas in a gutter with purchased compost, planted them out, and they're really not doing well. Oh well, other things are. And the spinach has been giving us lots and lots of leaves. There's a couple of varieties in here. And we've just been picking these big leaves and putting them into pretty much everything. All of our stir fries and pasta dishes, smoothies, etc. You'll notice way down here that I've just literally covered the ground with the manure. So this is the safe horse manure, and I'm creating a no-dig bed here. It's beautiful, isn't it? So this is the Generous Gardener. It's a rose from David Austin, and I planted it as a bare root plant, both of them on either side of this arbor. And that was just back in November, and they're already starting to bloom. And I'm pretty sure that people will say, cut off these blooms and let it grow a bit more, but I don't have the heart. And these smell incredible. Look at that, another perfect radish. And this bed is absolutely filled with them. I've sown loads of them because it was so cool and wet. It was one of those veg that I knew would just love and thrive in it. And with radishes, you can have them raw, and lots of people like to snack on them, me included. But you can put them into salads, you can pickle them, you can transform those leaves into a type of pesto. And I might just throw some of them into a smoothie. We've been having quite a few smoothies recently, trying to use up the spinach that has started to bolt and see how that goes. And then once I clear this area of radishes, it's going to be another sowing of them and even more greens that are going to be coming out of these brand new raised beds here in the home garden. Can you believe that I just put these in this year? And within a matter of months, they're already producing food. In any case, I think I'm going to wrap it up for today. And back on the topic of the aminopyralid herbicides, if you've had any kind of experience with them, please leave that as a comment below, and also spread the word because not very many people are aware of this just yet. I've just learned about it this year and have just seen it affect me. And if I hadn't just by chance come across that on Twitter, I would have thought it was my fault. And we need to find a solution to what's going on with compost because we should be able to trust it. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next week for another video here on Lovely Greens. Bye for now.